name is Ajisha Alwin, and I'm the ESA Student Section's Social Media Webmaster and Marketing Officer for this term, and I welcome you all and thank you all for joining us in the third webinar of our series, An Unconventional Graduate Journey. And today we're going to be talking about graduate opportunities during lockdown. And we have a very special guest speaker with us, Dr. Jorge Ramos from Stanford University, and he's been a longtime supporter of the student section. We all love him. So I'm gonna give him the floor to give us a little bit of an introduction as to what he does and his experience with grad school and anything he has to say to us before we move on to the topics. Dr. Ramos.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ajisha. So my name is Jorge Ramos, and yeah, like you said, I've been a supporter of the ESA student section. I was going back through, when I saw your Twitter post, and I was like, when did I start with the student section? It was 2009, and that's because of colleagues that invited me to be part of it. So I think it's, what you're doing is great, and students supporting students is the best thing you can do. And, the student section has also moved ESA to do better things. So I think you all have a lot of power. Just, use it collectively. And it's, so that's like my first, empowering the students. So keep doing what you're doing. So I work at Stanford University. I'm the Associate Director for Environmental Education. Jasper Ridge Biological Preserve, which is it's a natural preserve that is like a mile south of the campus of Stanford. So it's like a 15-minute drive, and it is a space for research, for education, and for developing new ideas for conservation purposes. So it's a really awesome place for doing fundamental science, for doing applied science, but also to, design new practices for conservation. And that involves technology, methods, even some theories have come out of the Jasper Ridge Biological Preserve. So it's a great spot. And the really good thing is also that we host, more than 30 courses from different departments. So there's biology people that work there. There's people from earth sciences. We have geologists. We have historians. We have music professors also go there and do research. So yeah, it's a really good spot, and it helps. I like it because I get to work with students, especially because I get to teach. I co-teach a course with Professor Rodolfo Dirso. And so he's been teaching it now with another person, Cindy Wilbur, but she retired. And she actually used to be the SEEDS chapter member, the SEEDS chapter advisor for the Stanford group. And after she retired, I took her job. And so now I'm the mentor for the SEEDS chapter at Stanford as well. And yeah, so that's a good spot. So I recommend, if you're in the area, if you're in the Bay Area, or well, not right now, but whenever the crisis ends, if any of you want to visit, just let me know, and I can host you all. Or if you have a SEEDS chapter in your institution, or even if you don't have one, you want to organize a group of students to come visit Jasper Ridge, let me know, and I can host you. And yeah, so that's, I don't know what else you want me to share.
The next topic I would say is a lot of these days, a lot of programs, institutions are putting courses online for free for auditing, and a lot of them offer certificates as well for very low cost. I'm taking some myself because it's versus a $4,000 class to a $100 certificate from an institution.
Oh, wow.
So the price line is very different, and since we're online anyway, so that is one thing, and a lot of certificates as well. So what would you think? There would be some pros and cons, obviously, to getting those certificates. So what are your opinions on getting them or spending time on them for grad students?
I'm trying to, I don't know if I ever I personally have never taken one or did not take one during grad school. So but it is, and I wonder, are they trying to think like if a student would come up and say, I've taken these courses online. I mean, yeah, no, I don't even know which platforms are offering these. Is it like, is it through other universities or is it other private companies? Or I'm new to this.
Actually, a lot of universities, I mean, I'm taking a course offered by Harvard that is online, and it's through Canvas. Coursera offers their own ones. edX, Harvard edX has their own courses. So I'm taking two courses, one biochemistry course and another biomedical research data management. And one of them is free. They also give you a certificate signed by the Harvard professor. And if you pass it, and it's going to be, you can put that on your resume is what. The thing is that it's been really popular around these days. I see social media filled with these courses. So I was just wondering, like, is this depending on what state you're in, like, is it better to take these courses and add to your resume, but particularly if you're like planning to graduate, if you're planning to apply, is this a good idea?
I mean, as long as, if you're already pursuing a bachelor's, wherever you are, and if it's possible, right, for you to continue financially or in different ways, if it's still possible to do it, I would say focus on that institution just so that you can get your credits out of the way. And once you finish your bachelor's, you have that degree that you can just move on to different things. But if for some reason you want to take a pause because, your education component right now through your home institution is not going to work out for any reason, I would say, yeah, if you want to keep learning and, educating yourself in some topics that you've always wanted to do, I say go for it. And because in the end, I think education is the best example of any investment that no one can take away from you, what you already learned. But obviously don't do it so that you end up wasting all your money on courses that you actually don't need. So be smart about it, and talk to professors in your field, talk to mentors. I still talk to my mentor from my undergrad. I met him in 2004. And even for big decisions now that I have to make here now at Stanford, I still call him up, and, it's good to always ask people that have been in this game for a long time, what their pros and cons are. But yeah, I mean, I think if they're free, obviously that's awesome. But also, everything that you commit to, regardless if you paid for it or you're free, make sure that you actually have the time to do it and that you will do it well, right? Because even if it's a free course that you signed up to take, or if you signed up to do something, you're committing as a person to do it, right? Like to yourself. And if you don't complete it, you're going to disappoint yourself. And in these times, taking care of your mental health and your self-esteem is more important. Don't commit to things that will end up that you might not complete, and then you end up hurting yourself a bit more. Just so make sure if what you need is like take your mind out of school, don't take another course, even if it's free. Find a hobby, help your parents, or find, I've been sending my mom a lot of paintings, and we read like chapters together. We found activities to take each other's minds out of like this new dynamic of always being in front of the computer. So check your priorities, check your health, and just keep afloat. So
that is a great thing to add. I mean, when I first thought of taking these courses, I was like, do I really need them? But then I realized that to make myself more competitive for the next PhD cycle I needed to take, because it was free, and also it's self-paced, so it makes my schedule, it's not a strict schedule that I have to follow. I just finish modules when I have the time, and like you said, it's really important to maintain your mental health and set your priorities straight, because staying at home can do a lot of things to your mental health. So to make sure you're connected, and that's another reason we're doing these webinars anyway, just to get out there, to reach out to very And like you said, that was really sweet when you said you were talking to your mom. And so my sister, I just had her moved in with me. So since her school is completely online, she's a high school senior, she's going to be graduating next year. So she's wanting to apply to undergrad programs, and she's like, I want to figure out my major and I'm interested in ecology. I'm like, sit with me. I already got her signed up for the meeting, and she's actually in this webinar right now. She's in the other room. So she's getting all, so for me, that's another priority I have. So I want to make sure I set all of my priorities straight. So that is really a good advice, and also a really good point to have. This topic is going to be all these opportunities we discussed and how to update our CV. As a grad student, it is top priority that you keep your CV updated and what to highlight. And I understand that I've heard from a lot of other of my mentors that I've had since community college. They all tell me that the personal statement I'm going to write for like the next application cycle, talk about what you're doing during this lockdown and how you're making yourself scientifically relevant during this time. So I want to ask you, like, what opportunities do we highlight? What do you think that, professionals will look for in our CVs?
Yeah, so like CVs are, when we talk about CVs, just so you know, like CVs are so unique just to academia. Like when I was finishing my PhD, I was building up my CV with every single little thing, right? Because you hear, it's all like these urban legends of like, oh, did you see that CV from that professor? It's 78 pages long. And you think that that's impressive. And you're like, but then you meet that person and you're like, but they're not nice. It's like, what is the point of having 78 pages CV, right? So if they're not nice. But, in academia, there's this weird thing of like, some people call them CV crushes. Which is a bad way to, to crush on someone based on work, because if you cannot work with them, then there's no point of having a crush on them, right? So, so I think, and then when I was finishing my CV, my PhD, I was, applying. I did apply for postdocs, and one professor was going to offer me one, but I ended up taking a job with this nonprofit. And the person from the nonprofit, when they emailed me about the job, they're like, oh, Jorge, you should apply for this job. It might be good for you. I said, oh, do I just upload like my personal statement in my CV? And she's like, no, we don't deal with academic CVs because they're like a waste of time for us. Just send us a 1-page resume. I had like a 38-page CV, and she told me that like 12 hours before the deadline of the job. So I was like, how do I transform a CV, 38 pages, into 1-page resume? Because in the real world, everyone uses resumes, right? You never send 38 pages to a future employer outside of academia. That's like, they'll immediately delete your email. So it is so make sure that you're doing both. And it's a good learning experience too, because when you put like in your CV, you put like a talk, I give a talk, I give a talk, I give a talk. You put your co-author talks. So you end up having like, I don't know, 50 talks. In your resume, you say, I presented hundreds of times in many conferences. And that's it. One line was condensed into 35 pages of presentations were condensed in one sentence. And that also tells you what else, in the bigger picture, what have you been doing in your PhD? So, so make sure you always do both. It's a good exercise. Full disclosure, I didn't even know how to do a resume. So I went to my, Arizona State has a really good office for, what's it called, like career services. So I went to them and I said, I need help transforming this CV into a resume, and the deadline's at 5 p.m. So I even bought lunch for the guy. I was like, can we just do this now? And I'll buy you lunch. I remember I brought him, I don't know did I bring him Chipotle or something like that? So we ate it in the office, and he helped me a lot do that. And now you always have both, right? And you can keep updating both simultaneously. And then if you want to highlight things for, if you're applying for grad school, if you're applying for, or higher ed or other jobs, always, you don't, for academia, you sort of send the same CV to everyone in grad school because they want to see your whole breadth of academic experience. But for jobs, you do have to tailor your resume because it's only a one page that they see, right? So make sure you tailor each resume that you send out to each potential employer. And also your personal statement. I heard a really good tip, and I do that sometimes. Well, I don't do that anymore because I have a job already. So, but do link your personal statement to your CV. Make them see more of you on how you pair your CV to your personal statement. So you can say things like, as you can see in my CV, I've done this, this, and this, and more detail over there. And then they have their CV. Usually the applications, they send them to us with like the personal statement and the CV, the resume attached to it. So we can easily reference it. So that's one, a tip between both. And that way, because a lot of what people end up doing, and it's a mistake, some people write their personal statement. It ends up being the resume with more words. And you're wasting valuable space in saying the same thing in 2 pages instead of saying more things in your personal statement that you can expand to in your CV. So I think in your personal statement, I would recommend that you highlight maybe 2 or 3 things that were really strong that you need to add a bit more context that are really tailored to that future employer. And then, or PI, and then more details, similar things in your CV, but always, and then specific things about highlighting in the pandemic. I mean, there's, I think anything that you're doing now, it's new, right? Because, everyone's going through this. In our generation, we have not been through a pandemic. We have not been through these protests also, so I think it is something that you could highlight, something that shows your passion that kept you going, right? Because a lot of people are still in the jobs doing it because they have the job. So, but what is it about you that has kept you going in this crisis, right? Like, and it doesn't have to be science. When people say like, it's like, oh, stay scientifically relevant. When looking for grad students, PIs will tell you like, yes, we do look for people that are, that actually can learn. We want to see that you can learn, because no one comes to grad school knowing already what they do and knowing what they're going to finish. And no one comes to grad school like smart on that topic. Everyone's coming to grad school to learn how to produce knowledge. So I think if you're going to write a personal statement that highlights, how you got through this, you should put what kept you going. What was your drive? Why did you keep doing what you're doing? Because, in grad school, it's more of a test of a disciplined person. It's more of a test of your, how do you keep going when things don't go as you planned, and how do you collaborate with others? Because it is 5 years, right? Like it's a long marathon. So if we see, and if your future employer sees that you can continue through, rough patches in life, of learning patches, because learning is sometimes failing and then learning. So if we can see that you're going through that and succeeding through those times, that is a good motivator, right? So, and it gives us like, oh, this person is not afraid of failing. This person's not afraid of having, of things not working out, but they always find a way to make it work. So we want to see, what is that drive that you bring? What is that passion that you carry? And that's, and it's always good to put that you worked in teams, and your letters of recommendation should say that too, right? Because we not only want to hire, smart and driven people, we want to hire people that we enjoy working with. So that's another thing that you should try to highlight. Even as you're doing this, it's hard to work with people right now because no one can, we're all in the pandemic. But showing examples of how you maintain collaboration over time in these times, I think it's a good sign as well.
That is a lot of tips, and I really appreciate all of them. Since we have 10 more minutes left, we'll just have any questions in the comments. At the same time, I think it will be fun to do. I'm going to show my CV and science resume, and you can just I'll share my screen and I'll show how different it is. Because the first time I realized I needed a resume was when I started working for ESA. And when I started my application, they were like, "Where's your one-page resume?" And I'm like, I've never written one, so condensing it. And at the same time, by the time my internship almost ended and I was leaving, Teresa introduced me to the ASM, the American Society of Microbiology Education Director. And I was asking her advice on how to approach PIs and, how, because I had no idea before then. So she, again, asked me where was my science resume. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. So she gave me tips, and then she helped me make my own science resume, which is what I send to PIs. I don't send my CV anymore because, like you said, it's my CV, I think it's 6 pages long. So I'm editing constantly, but it's really important to have that compare and contrast, because PI is also eventually is kind of like your employer. So when they read an email, she said was, they're probably not going to want to see 6 pages. They're not your grad school committee. If you can condense it to 1 to 2 page max, it'll be awesome. Mm-hmm. So while we wait for questions.
I welcome any. I do want to say, I've been telling some students that if you have the ability to have a website, I encourage that, because then you can just link that in your email, and then, then the professor can navigate on your tabs of research, education, outreach, and, gallery of images. And that way they get a fuller perspective of you instead of, just a personal statement in a CV. So, but that's only if you have the ability to do that.
Yeah, that's definitely, I think LinkedIn is the perfect opportunity. I always put my LinkedIn profile in.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you like this content, please subscribe to our YouTube channel for more, and definitely don't forget to check out our website, which will be linked in the description box below, for events from the student section and also more information about the 2020 ESA annual meeting. Our website will have all events the ESA student section is conducting during the annual meeting and more, so please do come check us out, and see you next time.